It is Saturday, December 15th. My name is Troublemaker, and I am covering the Wargame Cup 2012, a tournament that has been put on by Eugen Systems and sponsored by Intel. And I've been doing a lot of amateur matches, mostly because the higher quality, higher grade professional players have not been putting up their games. In fact, the only ones we've been getting have been treats from losers. So today we have a match between NATO player Rattusxrattus, who we have seen some game of so far, and a pact player by the name of Armyguy. So Armyguy first deploying his anti-aircraft. Of course, on Hell's Highway, getting a lot of anti-aircraft is wise, because this is, amongst all others, a good map for cheese of all helicopter variety. Now the word cheese here refers to just trying to win it all in and not try to beat your opponent on the design of the game, which is tactics. It involves no strategy, just the randomness, hope that your opponent doesn't have a lot of AA. And this map in particular is pretty good for artillery. You can see there's a very thin theater. It actually fits just my screen. And there's also a crazy cool play in which what most people are going to be doing is move fast and command forward. And so if you can move fast command with artillery, you can actually spam his units as they're clumped up on one of these roads. And that's if he does that. A little bit of, variation in the play, but not too much. And looks like we're starting it with some T-55 AM1s, which are your upgraded T-55s. He has two commands, one actually sitting in the back here. No doubt he's going to try and keep Hotel, which will be interesting. And from Rattusxrattus, we see that he has a lot of infantry, actually, an insanely high amount of infantry. A little bit of Flakpanzer action. And it's also possible he might try to keep Alpha. It's hard to say. The position of this command here does suggest that. But here we go. Lots of anti-tank weapons. Lots of anti-tank. And lots of anti-aircraft along with those infantry. And, kind of a problem because most of the units for Armyguy are actually tanks. So we'll have to see how this goes. So far, the makeup is actually favoring Rattusxrattus, but hey, who knows? Now they zoom forward, and we actually see that, in fact, Rattusxrattus will be holding on to Alpha. We see a helicopter just pickling around, doesn't really have a recon supporting it, could be a problem, and very quickly we see Rattusxrattus taking positions along the map. This recon might actually catch 4 infantry, which is kind of a weird thing to happen. And a lot of the standard positions we're seeing so far involving lots of infantry in this wooded area here. Of course, there are no commands here, but that might change. He's also using this anti-tank gun to kind of pick off any kind of infantry carriers in the woods here. Not a bad choice for a unit that's generally used for cheese. And that's really what you use these for, just picking off units. This recon might actually completely destroy something here. And it's kind of rare because this is a recon with a really very weak gun. Speaking of tanks winding up and destroying a recon, I think it's about to happen. Recon has a fuel leak and is on the retreat. Not going to die today. We see Armyguy actually reconning the side here. And this is actually relatively smart. He's just checking it to see that if there's anything in here. So I can get too close scores, and that way he can plan future pushes. Maybe he'll want to actually use a reinforcement block. Since he knows there's Delta Force there, he probably will not. 2 tank destroyers moving up. Actually, it has no ammunition, so it doesn't really matter too much. A lot of tank destroyers moving up as these tanks are moving into the open. Kind of scary. And this one I'm talking about, like this recon's actually out of ammunition. He did kill 1 Scott carrier, which is where the points come from, but that's about it. And the Mata VTSI is winding up, taking out 1 tank so far. There's actually 5 Mata VTSIs versus 3 T-55s right now, not looking good. Ooh, critical impact, and he might just lose this whole column of tanks. Not looking good. T-55 is able to get in the cover. Yes, it does. Just in time. And it's actually going to fire back on something. Maybe this Weissel Toe. Anti-tank weapon. And he's actually using the fire position very smart to just try and level this location, get some lucky hits in. Of course, the ammunition with the Martyr VTSI, not as bad as the Toes, who have rockets that are very, very expensive supply-wise, which is a big reason why a lot of people go for these Martyr VTSIs. The T-55's actually panicked right now, having taken a lot of random shots, and it just looks like it's going to die, but it's just not keeling over yet. It just needs a lucky rocket to hit it, and boom, there goes one. Maybe the next rocket will kill the next. But relatively slow game, mostly because Armyguy has built all the wrong units. And by wrong, I mean randomly wrong. A guy who's got a lot of tank destroyers is going to be very, very dangerous against a guy who has a lot of tanks. So he's actually bringing out the right unit, which is the anti-tank team. This one is the UAZ Faggot. Yes, I'm allowed to say that on YouTube. And basically it's just like a Jeep with a rocket launcher on it. Nothing particularly special. One thing you'll note about this unit is how insanely weak it is armor-wise. Doesn't look that good. In fact, it has 8 rear armor, so it can retreat, but it can't take any front-on hits. Kind of an interesting little note, though, that these are your high-end, far-distance lines, while your T-55 are your tanks who are supposed to soak up the damage. Now, if these faggots get too close, and let me say it again on YouTube, these faggots get too close, they can get easily chopped up by a lot more of these tank destroyer type vehicles, and you know, you can see a big difference here. Like, there's actually front armor on these Martyr VTSIs. Huge difference. It's often argued that Pact do not have enough anti-tank weaponry options compared to NATO, who just seemingly have all sorts of very powerful anti-tank weapons that also act as tanks. So it appears that a command is going to get moved forward for Rattusxrattus, and he's moving in a lot of infantry. Of course, this is going to be a low point game because both players have opted for Hotel and Foxtrot as opposed to moving forward. I think both players playing very cautiously, largely because they know this is a very cheesy map, and it's very likely for enemies to just rush forward with a lot of stuff. And what we got, oh my god, a Delta Force coming in. This could actually snipe out, oh my god, it's going to get all of these so-called artillery, and artillery of course are very important in this level. And oh my god, if he gets all these, that is huge. He's got all of them gone. Oh my god, that is insane. And you can get this Bookme too, because the Bookme has rockets and cannot fire back. And there's a second Delta Force coming from the side here. Look at this, he's got 2 Hueys, completely a fuel to make this trip. And he's actually going to snipe the FOB too. What a crazy good move by Rattusxrattus. We have a little bit of action going on down here. Looks like there's going to be some VABs up against these Motostrelcies, and the Motostrelcies cannot fire back to the main action though. Can the Delta Force actually get the command dead? That's the question. He's not pulling his command yet. And this is the kind of cheesy stuff I'm talking about, man. It's like when people do stuff like this to you. Of course, cheesy stuff is purely legitimate tactics. But on the same note, very, very scary. He's just going to refuel up his Delta Force here on at the FOB before moving out. He knows he cannot keep that location, but he's going to try it anyway. And yeah, still this one gunship helicopter actually moving around. And of course, these ones not so good at scouting. And oh my god, he might actually just lose it here. He's pulling it back to help defend his main, and oh god, the lack of attention here has caused it to crash right into the woods. Fires ablaze. The command is getting pulled, and he's now deploying 2 infantry units to try and deal with these Delta Force units. And now it's going to be a game of the cat and the mouse, in which the cat is always chasing the mouse always gets away. T-55 is rushing up. This is a very big desperation move. T-55s, of course, are not good against Martyr VTSI, and he might be able to do some damage with this, actually. But there's a lot of rockets pounding on him. It's a very slow tank battle, and if you look at it from what I call a cool angle, in which you can actually see the gunshots, you can kind of see that the T-55s are in quite a bit of trouble. A lot of tank destroyers at a very ridiculous arc. At a time like this, it's very preferable to split up your units. As you can see, they're all panicked and all routing, and if they were all split up, you'd have something firing. a lot of people like bunch the units together because it has the chance of giving them higher survivability. But when you don't have other units supporting, it becomes kind of problematic. So we see all units are kind of moving up now. It's just desperation. The UAZ 469 Faggot is also coming up to try and wipe out some of these units, and with the Faggot here, this could actually have a lot more success. T55 is moving very, very close, and actually wipes out a Martyr VTSI. A moderate win for Armyguy, as he's trying to just spot where all the forces are so that this UAZ can actually unload. And here we go. These are the dying words of a desperate man. Martyr VTSI is actually being rallied in to try and deal with this. A lot of T55 tanks. And UAZ moving into right click on possibly the recon. But this tank is routed. That is not good. These faggots need to be on the fire position command right now. And here they go. They fire off their rockets. Rockets, do they hit? And it looks like they're going to get a Weasel tow. Not too bad. T55 completely surrounded by Martyr VTSI right now. And looks like the tow is completely out of rockets and it's off to retreat. One of the big disadvantages of the tow is just the fact that it so easily runs out of rockets. And completely cleaned up, and now the map is looking very blue right now. Considering how many freaking high rated NATO players are in this tournament, some people might bring up balance. But honestly, like, this is relatively good as far as balance goes. There are tons of pact players who do very, very well, and it just so happens that while it wasn't balanced, people switched over to NATOs, which is why we're going to see a lot of NATO versus NATO. But this is NATO versus pact, and as the tournament goes on, this will actually get rarer and rarer. Delta Force moving to engage 20 Moto Strelsies. Not sure if this is a smart choice, but these OT Scots are actually not the gun type. This might do something, but probably not. That's the thing. But he's not losing too much. He's kind of just swamping around looking for a command right now, which of course is all the way over here. And looking at the score, you can see that there's a pretty big lead for Rattusxrattus, and he has an opportunity to do one or two things really. He can go for something a little more all-in, in which he gets a lot of helicopters and just goes for 4 commands, because this is destruction mode, so destroying commands will be good enough. Or he could expand, get another base, and just win with really good units. Either or would work fairly well right now. Speaking of Moto Strelsies doing more damage than they ought to, Shastras Hamas might get wiped out here. Oh my god, the VAB magically getting pushed back. And suddenly this command with a gun on it is running away. He's actually rallying in lots of infantry to try and deal with this group of Moto Strelsies. Here comes the Cobra as well. Without a spotter, we'll have some problems. And here comes the VABs. There's a lot of Moto Strelsies here though, and he might not actually have enough here to deal with it. The Cobra will help just by stunning and slowing down the combination of these two groups here, Moto Strelsies. It looks like this might all get cleaned up. In fact, it will. The Cobra actually helped quite a bit, and it does gun down this Moto Strelsies, and it looks as though this position is officially secure again. And here comes more tanks just running south, and right into a complete encirclement of Martyr VTSIs. Ooh, that is not the good. That is quite the bad. Speaking of more action going on, Delta Force actually wiped up that group of Moto Strelsies up here. This leads the TO-55s to rush into the woods. They don't rush into the woods, they rush and try and deal with this. Now, when I'm using my recon, I like to split them up. So to have this recon going this way, this path here, and then I'd have the other recon traveling this way. And the reason why I do this is the simple fact that 1, you're searching 2 locations, getting more scouting information. 2, you're cutting off a retreat path. So speaking of TO-55s getting wiped out by Delta Force, the veterancy on this Delta Force must be really high right now. What is it? Yeah, it's 2. Okay, that's not as high as I thought it'd be. But yeah, that's this one is a 5-star general right now. This is the veterancy unit that you should be using for all this stuff. The UAZ is actually completely rushing, and this is what I'm talking about. move one down here, cut off the retreat path, but for naught. So there's really not much left here for Armyguy, actually. It might be time for him to throw in the towel, actually. And unfortunately he's going for a lot of these anti-tank teams. They're not going to do anything, especially if Rattusxrattus goes for the endgame helicopter swap. And now this is a much better position for the TO-55. It's in the woods, and of course he cannot move the Delta Force in there to engage it, because if he runs into the TO-55 he'll become demoralized and have lots of problems. So we can actually see that he's Rattusxrattus is moving a lot of units in an attempt to slowly creep his way into the reinforcement lines of Armyguy. All the while we see 4 T-55 tanks running into an unloaded Saracen, or a loaded Saracen, which needs to get unloaded, actually, in order to deal with these tanks. And this would be a huge victory for Escalation. If this is not a tenuous position, I don't know what is. So yep, is he at a supply yet? He's actually, he doesn't have an FOB. Of course he's at a supply. So everything he rallies in here, he's actually rallying in and has no FOB. FOBs, of course, are very expensive, and a lot of strategies in which you are going to dump your main base, having an FOB is actually not that worthwhile. But what? Oh, it looks like a UAZ faggot moving up and going to get wiped out by pretty much all of the anti-tank weaponry here. And you want to watch this in slow motion? Whoa. Actually, all the missiles miss. And here comes the big battle. The T-55 is winding up, going to take out this Saracen, and oh no, infantry die inside. And he might even get this Black Hawk, which would be kind of weird. A grounded Black Hawk. I hope to God you can't hear that airplane flying overhead. I'm about an hour's away from an airport, and they always fly relatively low over where I am. So by the way, if you ever wanted to feel like crap, play a match in which your opponent has everything and you have nothing. So the ploy has been unfolded. The Fusiliers actually deployed, and another group of Fusiliers just to wipe out these tanks, and he's actually pulling them back as another group of Fusiliers are dumped on top of him. And unfortunately, it looks like this little attack has been not only shut down, but it's actually losing quite a bit here. The Saracen's chasing, but it's no avail. Should realistically be pulled back. Fusiliers winding up, going to take out another tank? Yes, they do. Grenades, of course, do very, very well in these close range scenarios. And so really, there's not much left on the map. Armyguy mostly shut down. Very, very high point score game for Rattusxrattus, who looks like he will be proceeding on to round 4. And I wonder who he'll be facing. Hopefully it's someone really, really good, so we can see like a real match. Because I feel with Rattusxrattus, and maybe this is not true, that he's been getting a nice carry through this whole thing, facing a lot of underwhelming opponents. He looked like from the last game and this game to be playing very, very well, but without some of the challenge, it's hard to say whether he's a top contender or not. And so we see some desperation infantry coming out for Armyguy, and it's just shifting down. Gonna go right into the tank destroyer line. There also are some TPZ Pooks, some Yagras here as well. Lots of units to try and deal with this, and that got shut down with relative ease. And it looks as though Rattusxrattus is just going to keep slowly pushing forward, keep making units, and you know, eventually overwhelm his opponent. And it's actually very thick too. He's not moving anything up that's old. He's keeping everything in its original positions and just thickening out. And whoa, just a lot of infantry all of a sudden. He might try and rush in some infantry and just go for a kill right now. And here comes a group of TO-55, 2 of them with 4 infantry. Nice little power couple. They're able to deal with roughly everything. And this is actually one of the harder groups to deal with. But it's all about timing and it's all about positioning. Because with this kind of stuff, if your TO-55s are being fired on, it all falls apart. So here comes a big infantry push. It looks like he's going to push up a lot of forces actually. Some Martyr VTSIs. And this is a big, big push. The command is actually getting pulled. there's just too much of an arc. There's no way this man can possibly get away, and it's actually sniped out. So this leaves Armyguy with not a lot of options. This could be his last hurrah, and this might be one of these scenarios where it's just like, well, I tried this, it failed, I literally have nothing left. Artillery pounding on this location. Artillery probably going to signal the end of this game because he doesn't have any artillery himself. And there we go. He's actually decided to leave the game and losing at a point margin that is pretty unheard of. Of course, these are both lower rated players, but Rattusxrattus moves on to round 4. And we'll see in probably about a week or two what this guy is really all about. My name has been Troublemaker, and thank you guys for watching. I have a few more games for the day, and then I'll be out. So stay tuned.